that sound? That's me flying in to the Frank Church Wilderness. The largest wilderness area in the lower 48. By federal law, it's a place man may visit but cannot remain. But I plan to remain there, completely alone. I wanted to try and survive a winter as far away from the modern world as a man can get. And here's how it all started. Always been attracted to alpine activities, which is a little strange for a guy from Texas. As a young man, I did some climbing, even some ice climbing. But simple mountaineering was where I was most comfortable. Just walking up and down and across the mountains. For some reason, I was most comfortable when I was most detached. In midlife, though, I had responsibilities. The family and the business. There wasn't any time for walkabouts. I experimented with other kinds of adventure, though, trying to keep the spark alive. We all need adventure in our lives. It gives us purpose beyond the day-to-day grind. The simple act of imagining an adventure, daydreaming and planning how it might go, even before it happens, puts some extra meaning into our days. Anyway, when that chapter ended, I felt I needed an adventure to get me going again. Something big and bold to kick off the new chapter. I retraced Lewis and Clark's route through the Rockies, from Hamilton, Montana to Kuski, Idaho, 150-something miles of ridge running and route finding through the wilderness. 7 weeks alone in winter conditions. It got sketchy, man, but I liked it. I felt alive again. When that adventure ended, I went back to Salmon to my cousin's house to recuperate for a few days. I didn't have any other plans right away, and she went to town, worked as a bookkeeper at this auto repair store. She was in the office talking to the boss, telling him all about it. Oh, my cousin just got back from the Clearwater. Retraced the route of Lewis and Clark alone. Spent 7 weeks on the trail, just him and that backpack. And there was a guy sitting out in the lobby, overheard her conversation with the boss. He said, "Excuse me, ma'am, did I hear that right? You said this fella just came in from the Clearwater?" She said, "Yes, sir, that's correct." He said, "Well, I don't know if he's got anything planned. I'm going to be in town till tomorrow afternoon. Here, let me give you my number, and if he's got time, I'd like to meet him for lunch. I might have some work for him." Which may be the best part of this story. Certainly the most encouraging part. That was more than just coincidence. That felt like a cosmic intervention. Being a mountaineer is not the same as being a mountain man, though. Walking through the wilderness is not the same as living there. And my fantasy was to live there. I wanted to live like the trappers that followed Lewis and Clark through the Wild West. Fiercely independent, self-sufficient, dangerously isolated, beyond salvation. I felt that you could live that way, but there was so much that I had to learn first. Things that I couldn't learn online. I wasn't sure you could learn them anywhere. They may have been lost to the past. The fellow in the lobby was an outfitter and a wilderness guide who needed a man that could work alone in the backcountry for extended periods of time. He said he'd teach me what I needed to know if I stayed on to work with him. And I learned all about horses and mules, guiding and packing. I lived in a shack at that backcountry ranch all summer and fall. And when he deemed me capable, when I'd earned his trust, I asked him if I could use the place for the winter. None of the things that happened with that outfitter were part of my plan. The plan was mostly an outline. They're important. I write my goal down at the top of the paper and I detail it. And then I read it and revise it because all that work drives the idea into my subconscious. And honestly, I believe it brings it to life. But you don't want to get hung up in the details. You want to be open to what good fortune can bring your way. Watch for signs and follow them. See where they lead. Long story short, it happened. When the outfitters and the hunters and packers left in November, I tucked in for the winter. No running water or electricity, no contact with the outside world. My own Walden's Pond, except Thoreau had a path back to town. I had a 2-day hike just to get to the wilderness boundary. It was like going back in time. A modern-day mountain man. I knew it wasn't going to last forever. At the time, I didn't even know how it was going to end. But when it ended, I'd be okay with that. And then I'd go and write the next chapter in my life story with as much excitement and enthusiasm as any of the chapters that came before. As it turns out, those chapters formed the basics for the real-life adventures of the Texas Yeti series. And there's a link down below where you can check those out if you think they might interest you. And if you've got ideas for adventure, something that you want to start sketching out, make a comment. Leave me a comment below. I read them. I reply. Do that like and subscribe thing while you're here because you don't want to miss the next episode. We're talking about living life on purpose. That's important and a lot of fun. I'll see you soon.